You hear that?
That's the sweet sounds of the GWAC podcast.
Episode 1, baby.
So sit back,
Relax,
and enjoy. So, welcome to episode 1 of the GWAC podcast. I'm Milo Wilson.
I'm Dylan Mashes.
And I'm Amma Bardal.
And you are gorgeous.
So the point of the podcast is it encompasses all the areas of GWAC. So we want to be obviously anything creative. Mm-hmm. So the people that we interview are inherently creative, but we want to share tips with people. We want to kind of find people who can almost act like mentor figures, who can then give us their insight into what they do, so that we can learn from it, but also address mental health as well for young people who are in creative fields, because it's difficult. Yeah.
I want to tell stories with it, it seems like we're looking for people who have stories to tell, have narratives. Everyone's obviously, inherently in some form of story circle, but I feel like it's a really good sort of place to start, really.
I think the podcasts are more interactive rather than just watching a video, especially because if it goes on for say 30 minutes, 40 minutes, it's kind of like the audience is with you in a way, they can always, especially as creatives, who think they're always alone or they don't have someone to talk to, just sitting back and hearing it from other people's perspectives and different, creative mediums and whatever, it's like you're not alone, people are going through it. And it's just, good to listen sometimes.
And equally with interactivity though, on the next scale, we want to hear people's responses, see what they want for the second season, so we can actually,
live calls, for sure. Second season, hello. How can we help you? No, I'm definitely thinking about that because I love podcasts and I listen to them. I listen to about 3 hours probably of stuff a day because it's just I go to the shops, write, draw, when I'm doing creative stuff, then I have that sort of talk in the background. So this is, pick up a pen if you're listening. You don't have to, but it's a good, I want us to be background noise, really interesting background noise.
Good
All you little.
But that's the thing, when you put on a podcast, you're I'm multitasking right now, and I'm giving myself this knowledge and interesting stuff just in the background.
But I can't do that. I can't listen to podcasts whilst doing something. I have to fucking look at my computer.
Nah.
I have to
when
take
you're
it
traveling, though, is that not nice when you're on the tube?
No, I can't do it because I daydream. I'm thinking I can't do it.
He's too busy looking out the window of the
I'm not even
tube.
kidding. I can't. I'm cooking and I put on Jocko podcast, for example. Shout out Jocko podcast. It's so good. It's about discipline in this. And I'm just fucking cooking my eggs. I cook for too long, but I start with this over pepper and I rewind it every time.
Oh, dude.
Man,
I cannot do it.
you're our fearless leader. Introduce yourself.
Yeah.
I think you are.
Yeah, well, I'm Amma Bardal.
Yeah, we've covered that. Thank you. Dylan, get her.
So I co-direct GWAC with Dom, who started it up. He's the founder. When I met him, I was like, this is a cool thing, we should do more with this. So I kind of helped him out and stuck at it since.
And this is Dom, cool surname.
Dom Tricasta.
Jesus.
Dominic.
Dom Tricasta.
Is there any more to his name? Is there a middle bit?
Don't think so.
And is it Dominique or
Dominic.
He'd be upset.
When my mum first met him, she misheard me. It's can my friend Dominic come round? And she thought I said Dominique, so she was expecting a girl.
Oh,
like a French girl with some pigtails coming over.
My mum was like, I thought it was just some girl from college,
And then it turns out it's the extremely hairy.
You didn't have that much hair then. Anyway, tangent. So I co-direct GWAC, and I'm an artist and filmmaker and multimedia. I kind of do a bit of everything. That's why I'm doing a podcast, even though that's not really my thing. But
You're doing well.
Push the boat out. Yeah.
You're an artist. You make tons of fine art, but right now you're just all about the films.
I think I started with fine art and I still do that, but it's not my main thing anymore. I'm going towards film, but also it's fine art's always at my grounding, and I always want to do mixed media. I want to branch into more installations, sculptures. It's anything. I just kind of learn on the job. So if I'm interested, it gets to the point where you have enough kind of skills that just link, and things become a bit more I can probably do that because I did this other thing before.
And you mix them anyway,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's probably a lot of fine art in Art is Catharsis, right?
Of course.
The
So,
new
yeah.
Amber Bardell film coming out soon. Should be out, maybe.
So yeah, we talk about my film like a fair bit in the second episode, if you're interested in hearing a bit more about that. And obviously me and Milo did an interview.
It's true.
Right now I still actually haven't finished it, but it will be out when we release the podcast. It will be...
That's how you know we're real artists.
Real artists, so yeah. No, that's like a long passion project, and it's kind of my debut film really. I've made a lot of short films before that, but this is the first time I'm really like with a crew doing bits.
I mean, you've got a lot of sets, right? Like these really interesting sets. I mean, how different would like a set even be to an installation, except for the fact that you film it rather than, you know, it's,
Yeah.
a lot of it must be similar.
I think
stuff.
it is similar, but it's also like I think when I make sets for on screen, like I mean, I would make them a bit more sturdy, I guess. Because right now the things I made on for that film, 6 setups in one day,
Oof.
like between 10 and 5, and like everything was just so like gotta go do the next thing. Everyone had their lunch break. I was in there setting up the next thing, so it was very temporary. It was like, what can we do just to make it work? Like when you zoom out of those sets, it's like people are just holding but that's part of the fun of it. Like it's all about that construction of me directing and also styling and doing production design, because one of the first shots in the film is like we have a set and the camera tracks back and you see all the people are holding things. There's someone with a torch shining it through something. Like it's just very
That's very cool.
engaging and interesting, I guess. Like I'm trying to just bring you into the filmic process whilst watching it. But yeah, no, to answer your question, if I made installations, you have to make it a bit more like, it can't be so rough around the edges. You've got to have, people are going to walk through this, things can't just fall on their head. You can't have someone stood there for the whole
Of course, yeah.
So
That's like a massive thing, I guess, the difference between what can make it into the frame, which you can choose where the borders, and then if you give someone access to
In
your
real
art.
life, yeah.
Like, when I'm in the tape, man, I'm snooping. I'm like getting around shit. I'm like, that was a
it's
weird...
got to be seamless. But then I kind of love that because there will probably be like cavity walls somewhere in the tape where they've just chucked a load of bits of cardboard or something. Actually, probably not in the tape, but in like other galleries.
So, Amber, I think you've solidly introduced yourself.
Yeah.
I know who you are.
Thank you. Well,
Everyone, the listeners know who you are.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But Dylan,
Hello.
who are you?
I'm Dylan.
Oh, alright, cool. I'm Milo.
Nice. Made a film last year, and now I'm trying to do other things because I'm crazy. You know, I don't really like being a filmmaker.
It's
well,
true.
I don't like being I don't like saying I'm a filmmaker. It
Well,
just
that's why I
feels
say
weird to
I
me.
always have artist in there because
Exactly.
artist encompasses it all.
It does, like, or creative or something.
But you still have to be like, yeah, but I do multimedia. I'm not just a fine artist and a
Exactly.
filmmaker with that split. It's like, no, I do everything. I'm just trying to like simplify it for you on a
Yeah,
place so that
exactly.
you understand me quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, co-founder of Future First, a production company.
Shout out to Future
Shout
First.
out Future First. Going for a year, going really well, and that's me.
What do you want to be doing? Like, where do you think you're going?
The thing with me is like I don't like creating stuff for the sake of creating. You know, like I cannot write a script to save my life. Like I just don't like doing it. I like doing it when I want to do it. Like if I have no motivation here, there's nothing for me to tell. Like my last film was like metaphorically heavily me sort of thing. But now that that's out, there's nothing that I can kind of piece from here. Like if I want to make a film about, say, the mafia, I would want to live in Italy, in Sicily, for example, for like a year or two. If I want to make a film about prison, I would want to go to prison. It's stuff like
Cool. That's not that hard to do.
Yeah, but it's not like I can't bring myself to be a creative if I don't know about it firsthand. I just feel it would just feel wrong for me. Doesn't work for me. I can't create a fantasy. Other than like, you know, we have like fantasies in our head, like, you know, daydreams and shit. I can't put that to paper because I won't make it. Like I can't make
Yeah.
sci-fi.
What fantasy in my head would when I'm making it just be like, here's a man walks in hot but doesn't know it. There's 9 women. They all turn and scream. I don't know. That's it.
I think, I guess, like, I don't know, I don't know about you guys, but like I've had the same sort of daydream fantasy for like 5 years, and it's so Star Wars.
Tell us now.
Dude, it's like, do you guys not have this? Do you like live in this like
No.
world you created?
Yeah.
Well, a
No,
little
I've
bit,
got it.
but it's not like the same consistently. It's always like I'm building on it, and I guess it's always like, for me, it's like a goal. It's like, this is
Okay.
what I'm gonna make for myself. This is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm gonna be for a bit.
Makes
and, like,
sense,
it constantly evolves, and I do it. And it's never how I imagined, but I do it.
Yeah.
But do you have like a literal, like a something that you don't ever want to be real,
Yeah.
just an escape world, like
Yeah, do you
a
have
daydream
that?
world?
It's not consistent. I would just have like ideas every so often,
Shit.
and they're
Do
all
you
wildly
have it?
different.
Yeah. I've got a little
You've got a
world.
little space you can go to.
Yeah,
You can just make
I've got a
it.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got a
right?
really cool coat in it.
Like I have that as well. This could be like a £20 million film if I really wanted to. Like it's just like I
Yeah.
created the space base, my own ship, you know.
Yes.
I've got like lightsabers and shit, dude.
But would you fucking go to space before you?
I would never make a space film. I couldn't know, like, because I can't make films that don't relate to me. Like I'm not one to just make a film for.
But then surely that relates to you because it's your whole fantasy and you're building that in your head. Like,
That's
would
true.
you not want to make that film?
I would never
eventually?
want that in a real body because that's me.
No.
That's what makes it me though.
Yeah,
Because like
that's
only I can access
Yeah,
it.
and what's in your head isn't a green screen.
Yeah.
So like you can imagine trying to, you'd have to like
Yeah.
somehow
Exactly.
create a machine that
But I
could just.
think that would be a really interesting process, like making that world into a
I feel like for
But
Star Wars
I don't really
especially,
have that.
I feel like that would have been Star Wars. Like I imagine George Lucas had that for like 20 years. Like he
Yeah,
created
probably, right? I mean, that film's super interesting to me. I watched it fairly recently, 4, and like it's a play. Like
Yeah.
as films go back, like they're more and more like just filming a play. Like the scenes are much more like scenes, and like Star Wars is a great one because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like just a space opera, and it's real fun. And there's so much indoorness that somehow I've got the idea that outside of the room is the blackness and the stars and but like usually we're just in a room like hanging
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's testament to that. Good play. Well filmed.
Can I quickly bring it back to like how you're relevant to Black? Like you are now one of our
Yeah, what do you do?
Yes, what film correspondent, right?
Because I'm pretty sure I asked you to be part of
Yeah,
Black.
yeah, you messaged me. Yeah, Amber messaged me to be part of GWAC. GWAC's a film correspondent, and I've been here ever since. This is me.
What does that job entail, film correspondent?
Because I mean, like everyone we kind of like have in the scene for a bit before we ask them to be staff. Yeah, like we've been making stuff together.
I think our first project would have been the sort of prelude, right? When we
Yeah.
worked on the set together. Yeah. And then we did the photo shoot. So.
What's the photo shoot? What's the prelude? These guys don't know these things.
Oh yeah, I mean.
You just do like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, so we did that.
Yeah, we've got this film called Disorder,
Yeah.
which it's kind of an ongoing thing. We're not sure when we're gonna make it.
We're just waiting on the funding because everything's done apart from
Yeah.
having money to make it. Because you know.
But that's how we met.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we did a photo shoot in June or July. It was me and my friend Connell. We're both South Asian creatives. We want to create like a South Asian sort of culturally inspired photo shoot. It was in a garden. It was really cool. That did really well actually. Went to a few magazines, and one of them will be in print very soon, which would be really, really cool.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
What magazine?
I think it's called The Brown Orient. I really hope I got that right. Yeah, issue 4. I've seen it. It's a nice magazine.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Exciting times.
yeah, very exciting.
So, but yeah, as film correspondent, I mean, you're kind of easing into the role, you haven't.
Yeah, that is true. That is.
But it's like we kind of partnered Future First with GWAC now, so you and Levi are now just like part of GWAC we're doing stuff together. Like we've got our film event in
Yeah, we
December, which will probably have happened
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
by the time we put this out. But yeah, no, we're having a film event, which is really cool. That's our first kind of film-centric event for GWAC.
That is true.
And like
Yeah.
we've made that happen.
Do you have stuff? Are you screening your own
Artist
stuff?
Catharsis.
Yeah.
Artist Catharsis!
Loads of
Woo! Sorry.
loads of short films
So
from
many,
different creators.
Uh-huh.
And we just want to make the whole evening like a good vibe. Like we're gonna have a Q&A panel and all the filmmakers are female. Just yeah, Milo's hosting that. I'm on the panel. Yeah.
I just pointed at myself. I didn't even know.
But
Now I am.
yeah, you did.
As the all-female panel, I'll
Yeah.
just be there like,
You're
hey,
mediating.
I'm gonna impose my, you know.
But I think the thing about GWAC is like it's never like, oh, this event's all female. We never really said that it was going to be an all female Q&A. It just is like, oh well, let's boost women up a bit more because they're not having a great time in the film industry ever. So let's boost them.
Or all of human history since the beginning.
So that's really nice, and I think we do little things like that throughout. And like with your South Asian shoot, I worked with you on that, and it was like. I remember you talking about it and I was like, that's sick, but I kind of like kept in the background because I didn't want to like offer to like style it or anything for you because I was like, oh, I'm not of that background, and like if you found someone else then that might be more appropriate, but it's cool that then I got involved and but my aim was always to like let that shine through and talk to you guys and be creative around it, not be like, hi, I'm white.
Hi, my name's Chet.
Yeah.
I like that that these things like having these things are coming organically, like just by following our bliss and just having a bunch of young creatives have the chance to be creative. You get like all these this all-female panel, which wasn't organised. You just happen to. The more opportunities you give, surprise, diversity arrives. That wasn't meant to rhyme.
But I think that's the thing. Like, I guess what the things I try and do now, I do go out my way to like involve people a little bit more because I'm part of GWAC and I co-direct it, and I want to, people I meet, I'm like, you should join. But it's like, actually, I'm using it as a resource for myself now, and that's something that I really want to spread more because it's like. Half my crew for my film, probably more than half, are in GWAC, and there are people I found through GWAC that I would never have met and worked with, and it turned out great. And
so you're the ideal GWAC member who works with other people and minds it.
I know it inside out, so I know how to use it, and what my aim is now is to help people understand it and use it like that, so they can be like, oh, I want to collaborate with someone. Like, I've written a poem, I want someone to illustrate. Maybe someone in GWAC will do it. Like, it's thinking of it. Because if it's not like part of your life that you co-direct this thing, then you're not necessarily going to think of it in every situation when you're like, oh, that would be nice. But I think a lot of people have a lot of potential for things like that, which they don't think of. They're like, oh, I'm just a poet, I'm just going to write poems. Like, that's what I'm trying to be.
Of course, collaboration isn't the first port of call. It's not the first
port of call, but it's like actually when you start thinking about it, it can be really fun and interesting, and it helps us, like you were saying earlier, like being creative can be really lonely. And even if it's like kind of a work thing, but it's like you can make it informal. Like GWAC's quite informal. Like we want people to just like make friends and work together, like hand in hand. And
and it's not like it's terrible to like work with each other anyway.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but you can do something like that that's like fun and interesting for both of you, like portfolio work, whatever. It can help you in the future, but also then you maybe made a friend out of it. It's like sick.
Yeah.
Maybe work together in the future.
Have you joined yet, listener? I'm addressing the microphone, but that's not obvious, I guess, because just like asking Amber.
Have you joined it?
Have you joined GWAC? When I joined GWAC, it was terrifying, man. I showed up, was added to a group chat.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the group chat. Yeah. If you're in GWAC or if you're thinking about it, man, get ready for the most vibrant. Just strange group chat you've ever been a part of. I was fired several times as well. I was making a big splash, and now finally I made it all the way to consultant.
So what do you do as consultant, Mark?
Well, thank you for asking. It's a little thing called a segue. Nothing. I am a writery man who does a lot of things and has a lot of experience with grabbing different clients or standing in front of lots of people and quickly winging things. And this skill landed me a place on the GWAC staff team with no idea of what I would ever do, and so I've been under the label of consultant. And the general idea, I think, between Dom and I, shout out Dom, is just to sort of like, I'm just a sort of dog that he keeps, and then occasionally he's like sicks me on an event or an idea, and I show up and I'm like, hey, it's me, hi. Like, hey, Mother, we're thinking of starting a podcast. And I'm like, sweet, here I am. But yeah, no, it's... I think I encourage people as well in the chat quite a bit. I'm a very, very useful member of this community.
No, well, that's the thing. I guess we have different staff positions. Like the whole thing's very organic. So like we know you, and that's why we're like you can be staff, but you can just be Milo.
Yeah.
Like, when we need you, we're gonna shout at you and be like, look, we need you to present something, and you're like, sick, yeah, all right, I'll go for it.
Like
now.
a dog.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I don't know, like, it's your personality though. Like,
Yeah, dude, it's you. Like,
we wouldn't have got me and been like, yeah, Amber, be our dog. Like, get excited to go on stage because I'm like,
Yeah, I mean,
shit.
your teeth aren't even that sharp.
But that's the thing, like, we try and like everything's kind of just tailored to like the people we know, like that we want to get involved, and it's very organic. We're like, let's just see how these people will work together, you know?
Totally. I mean, for me, when we were discussing recently, we were trying to get the aim of GWAC as an art collective into like one sentence. It was a good hour
difficult.
of like spitballing, and I think we came up with something like working on sustainable futures for artists, and like that gearing towards the future I think is such a massive thing, because it's like you don't need to be asking, oh well, like what do you do? It's like, what will we do? Like, that sounds so bad, but like everything seems to be just about running forward. We're collecting people, we're slowly getting everyone into like working with each other, we're inspiring the collaboration, and then give us a few years, man. You don't know. I sort of ran out of words in this sentence. I started strong.
But this is a thing like about future. Like if I quickly look back on the past. No, but we've only been running this collective for a couple of years, and I think something I want to do more of is actually just share, like remind people all the things we do and what we've done and like what we want to do next, because sometimes
it started out in a shed. Dominic D'Entrecasto was sitting there and he said GWAC, and ever since then
spawned.
Yeah, like he grew, and now it's a network where, I'm sorry, I don't know what this, I get possessed sometimes, it's weird.
It's the old home.
It's the same voice though. He's in my fantasy world. No, we're international, man. You're so right about the fact that Dom just sort of set a bomb off and it just exploded into this brilliant.
But this is not what I was saying. But yeah.
All right, sorry. Yeah.
There's a lot of hard work behind it, though. You know, like. Because when I met Dom, it was like, okay, yeah, what is GWAC? Like, what is this thing you're doing? Like, he had an Instagram page with like a few posts on it, you know, and it's growing. Like, we were like, there was a point where we were like, let's do events. And like this year we've done events, and like we're doing more events, and they're getting really good. Like our first couple events we've had were like huge success, you know, and we were winging it, but it was like so great. And just having people together in a room is what I kept saying. It's like, oh, we need to do more physical stuff because it's so online, and yeah, it's international, so it's still difficult to like reach out to a lot of people that aren't in like London or like where it's originated from. But we want to grow that more, and like eventually I can see us doing stuff in like other major cities.
Yeah, man, other countries. We didn't have to be there for these physical events. You end up with enough, you know,
yeah,
Italians.
The thing, like once we've met people and we trust them to be staff, like, or people like Dylan Move, you know, you set up a whole thing in Italy or somewhere.
Oh my god.
That's how it happens, you know? We just kind of go, what are people doing with their lives?
Spread it. Like butter. All of us here, the three of us at least, we all have a very special sort of, or a very poignant relationship between sort of creating art and mental health, because how could you not, right? I don't think I know an artist who's like, yeah, you know, I'm always fine, and then sometimes when I'm feeling extra fine, I draw a still life. I'm like, oh, you've done it. I mean, you guys talk about art as catharsis in the next one, but art therapy is one of the most fantastic things that you've been looking at a lot, Amber, right?
Yeah, so I guess with my film I wanted to kind of look into how art can help people, like any kind of creative thing can be a process for us to like release emotionally. And yeah, I talked to like loads of different people about how they've kind of done this in different ways. Sometimes it's around culture, sometimes it's like really obvious with like grief, or people with like disabilities and things, or just day to day like, oh, I'm gonna do some pottery, like, and do that as a regular thing and take that time out and just focus on that rather than all the other stresses and like my day job or whatever. So
what do you do? Is that?
Well, I think for me, I have quite a complex relationship with art therapy.
Tell me.
Because, I mean, I work in so many different areas, like media, it's quite difficult to be like, oh, this one's to relax, you know? But sometimes, like, I mean, I got a painting I did over there where I just was, like, kind of stressed, and I was like, oh, I haven't done an oil painting in a while.
For the listener, Amber pointed to nothing. Just pointed to a tree.
It's like, yeah, I just sat down that evening and was like, yeah, I think fine art's now more of a thing where I can sit down and do a painting because it's so much simpler for me. I'm not saying that fine art's simple, but like if I just want to do a painting of like a plant or something and it not be like, oh, this is for, I mean, I do paintings on commission as well, so sometimes you're there like, oh god, someone's paying me to do this, it's got to be good, like whatever. So if you just do it for yourself and you're like, this doesn't have to be good, it often ends up being like something really good anyway because you're relaxed. But it's more about the process, just like feeling the paint on the canvas and just enjoying that and sitting with it and focusing all your attention on one thing for like a few hours, because I'm really bad at doing that. I overthink a lot. So
do you think you would be, or how do you think that you would feel if you weren't making art like a lot? Like, I know
not good.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so I think that's another thing, to try and talk about like what I do when I'm especially stressed out. Sometimes I do paintings which are like, I did ones a few years back when I was really kind of in a bad spot mentally. I kind of just got out a big piece of paper and I use like ink or something quite simple that I just like the feeling of painting with, and I'll just do abstract shit, or sometimes I'll be like have a really fixated thought, so then I'll do writing as well, just like letting everything out. And once you kind of like put it down physically, you can see it there, it's like you transferred that out of your head. Yeah. And it's so simple, but sometimes like I just needed to do that, and occasionally I do it now, but normally it's just really abstract, so I'm just kind of like like squiggly lines, but just it feels nice to just like look at it and feel it on the paper. Like it's so simple, and yeah, sometimes you can't, that's another thing that's really important, sometimes I can't put my thoughts into words, so I can't write and I can't talk about it, so I have to just make shapes and do that, and it expresses something which I can't put into words.
That's very cool. I haven't thought about that as my whole art medium. Yeah, I have to use words, but they're definitely not my thoughts perfectly the first time. There's a couple of differences in, like, I know for a fact that if I didn't write every day, I would be insane. Just like way too many, because there's that whole what you were saying about how it's interesting that you sort of transfer what you might be fixating on, or like what's bubbling in your brain, onto something that's real and tangible, which is a sort of way of compartmentalizing it. But that's interesting because sometimes I find that like doesn't exactly work out as smoothly as you want it to, because the idea, the aim for me is to, if I write it, then the words will leave my head, through my fingers and out onto the page. But like then I'm just looking at it again and it's still there, but it's still up here. So it's an interesting one, because generally you have to write your way out of something. It's like my experience with using it as therapy, or it just like during a few, like either quite some bad panic attacks or just general worrying, like about the fact that, you know, time exists and no one knows what it is, or like just those terrifying things. You end up sort of you get to commit moments of yourself into something that like goes past the sort of the intangibility of thought and becomes concrete, which is always cool. And the idea of running your way out of something, which is where I started, is that you sort of end up you go into this labyrinth. And I know some other people who do this too, because you tend to reach an ending, you go and like free write, and then you sort of slowly feel it unraveling, and you get this really interesting, like I feel like there should be a mode where it comes out in a spiral. That would be an amazing looking document. But you can definitely, if you write your thought, that's like the very, very beginning, and then you have to keep like either rant or either like have a weird stream of conscious conversation with yourself, or straight up hone it into craft. Like, you don't just have to unravel something with writing by doing free association, just like blah 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 blah. You can, one thing that I find very important is the idea of steadying your hand, like you were saying about, the feeling of pen onto paper. Like, especially if you're angry or scared and you're shaking, there's something to the idea that you have to control your body, and you have to slow your body as well. Like, I can type quite fast now, so I have to go back to pen because I'm just I can really angrily like stamp something out and I'm still mad. But if you have to control yourself, it's like, instead of stabbing this paper with this pen, which is very easy, I have to not.
And it's like almost sometimes you have to kind of just distract yourself from like what's annoying you by being like, oh yeah, to do this painting I have to like make my brush strokes in this certain way, and it's quite calming, and that's just how you do the painting.
You transfer from subject to form.
And you don't even realise it, because sometimes I think I get myself in a weird loop where if I do like deep breathing or something, it just reminds me that I'm stressed and I'm trying to calm down. Whereas if you do something like that, then your breathing's gonna calm and your heart rate and all of that without realizing it. And you're not just fixating on like, oh, I need to make myself feel better now, and being like, but that pisses me off because I'm pissed off.
That works, right?
Doesn't it?
It's like when your parents text you like, just think positive thoughts, Johnny. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah, so
Steve. Shout out my dad, Steve.
Shout out, Steve.
Do you have any insights into this? Do you use any art to
Oh, that's the thing. I'm the complete opposite.
Do you just box?
Yeah.
Hell yeah! Oh, I guess
like, that's true. Like, I can't use art to, calm me down, because that's like somewhat. It's a place that I have to like go. And if I'm like stressing about something, and most of my stress is either art or fitness. But the thing with fitness is it adds that risk that you can't do stuff angrily because you will hurt yourself.
Right.
So like my punching bag is not in a good position. Like, if one like miss, I'm hitting the door for him. It's like, so I can't like take my anger out. Or,
of course. And
like, me not being much of a writer, I can't take my anger out into words either. So
that speaks to what we were saying about like putting it into the craft itself, like the brush strokes.
Exactly. You have to create a discipline, especially like, I don't know, I feel like a big one with artists, and me especially, is anxiety. And that's like every hour of the day. Like, that's not something that like, okay, from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. you've got anxiety. It's like, no, this is gonna happen constantly. And it's all about how you want to deal with it. The way I find the best way to deal with it is to have an end goal for the day. So my end goal is like, as long as I do 3 things in that day, then I can't bring myself to be anxious, because I've done what the fuck I want to do.
Oh damn.
So it's like
I kind of do that, but my level is like up here of what I want to get done.
But for the listener, Amber's hand was raised particularly high, but it could have been higher if she stood up.
But do 3 categories. For example, like my 3 categories are film, food, and fitness, because those are 3 things that I would hate myself if I didn't do that every day. So
and you love alliteration as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can
the 3 Fs, dude. If you want to add a 4 Fs, friends when we see a friend.
Oh shit.
So it's like, as long as you cook something sick, as long as you do some sort of fitness, as long as you do something film related, because it's like business now. I can't bring myself to be anxious for the rest of the day.
So you say you don't use art, but I mean cooking.
Oh, dude, that is art.
Come on, that's a wonderfully creative process.
And I think that's something that kind of links into this idea of, I tutor people in art and photography and things, and there are some people that are just so fixated on making a perfect painting that they want to look at, and they're very like, oh yeah, but I don't like that, I have to change it because I'm gonna see this on my wall or whatever. And it's like, but that's not gonna make you feel better. I think sometimes you have to split your art, like, the paintings I was talking about earlier, like things I just do with some ink on paper, like that probably goes in the bin after a while. Like, it's not about it looking nice, it's about it being useful. And I think if you can split those, and maybe it's just like cooking is that thing for you, and it's not like, oh, I have to,
because that goes in the bin real quick.
But like,
this.
it is kind of a thing which you do in the moment, because then you're going to eat that.
Oh, absolutely. It's gone. It's so true.
So it's gone, and it's like, but because you don't have to show anyone that, it's very personal.
Yeah.
You can just enjoy the process, and then it's gone. Like, and it's meant to be like that. So you're not going to be upset about it being gone, unless you made like the best food ever. And you can't replicate it.
When you're upset that you ate it. At least you get to consume it. That's cooking's a very positive.
It is. It's calming.
It leads to eating. There's nothing better.
Because all things are like for you, because only you can do it. If you're suffering from anxiety and someone else isn't, you can't really give them the same thing. To them, it's just cooking. To you, it's like this is like an hour that I'm not in my head.
Yeah, totally. No, I make complex dishes.
Exactly.
Do you? What's your like?
Oh, dude, like I don't know. It depends on my goal is.
You have a signature?
I don't eat for pleasure. I eat for nutrition.
Oh yeah, look
I'm that dude.
Such
I can't eat for pleasure.
You're a beautiful man. You definitely look like you eat for atrophy.
I try.
Atrophy?
Hypertrophy.
Oh shit, what's atrophy? Cannabinoids now, okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's all like, it's however people are gonna, go about their own mental issues and stuff, and like how they want to cope with it. Because at the end of the day, you're the only person that's there for you. You can vent to people and you can like talk to people, and that's gonna be very helpful. But at the end of the day, if it's gonna be a like recurring thing, you have to know you gotta know how you're gonna solve that. And whether that's gonna be through meds or through art or through anything, a new hobby, you have to decide how it's gonna be. You gotta put an end to it. You gotta be like, okay, I'm sad. How am I gonna stop being sad? You can't stop being sad. How am I gonna stop being sad today? Just worry about that. As long as you can work up to that, you can't complain. I get sad. Like, I get depressive, but as long as I do what I need to do as a routine, I can't. Like, I'm done. Like,
damn.
I'll be sad tomorrow.
Another day, another challenge.
Exactly. Like, baby steps. No one's gonna like.
Unfortunately, none of us have any meds, but hopefully this podcast will be a good lesson in how to use like art and other hobbies
Exactly.
to help yourself.